Welcome to Therapy, Coaching, and Dreams. This is D. Kelly. I'm here with Jim Shalley.
Hello, D. Nice to be with you again.
You as well. We have been spending a season looking at the very things that are part of our title of this podcast, therapy and how that works, coaching and what that looks like, and dreams, how they fit into those aspects of our life and lead us toward health and wholeness. I would like to spend some time this morning, Jim, on some of the changes that take place and how that can be very encouraging to people when they see change, but the problems that sometimes it creates, the consequences that you weren't expecting. Sometimes those are internal consequences. It raises issues that you hadn't been considering, didn't know you'd have to face. But it also can change systems, family systems, friendships, relationships. So I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the things that we can do to prepare ourselves or to prepare clients that you might work with for what that might look like when they try and put into place changes that they're making.
Yeah, that's a great question.
So let's look at some real, maybe obvious ones. One of the things that comes to mind immediately for me is somebody who's just trying to overcome addictions. When you have certain addictions and you change behavior patterns to try and address that, for example, if you are a social drinker and you decide that that's no longer something that is healthy and beneficial for you.
That would change a lot of the family system, yeah.
And it certainly changes how friends react to you.
Absolutely true.
So
you're not gonna drink anymore? Well, you're not gonna be much fun. Or yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah. So this change in one thing all of a sudden has these multiple layers that start unfolding.
And the excellent part of that, the underlying value and effect comes from the fact that no one's making me change. I'm choosing to do it. That's what I think we've talked about it before. That's called what I call a heart change. If my heart changes and I know I need to do this different, I'm not doing it because you're making me do it or I'm trying to change somebody else. That changes the system more dramatically than someone being forced to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think to your point, that's a great point. If I decide, I still want to do social drinking anymore, and just because I don't want to, they're not doing it to affect anything. And they even feel bad that some of the family members would make a comment on it or feel like they couldn't drink now. No, it's fine. You can still do that. But it changes the dynamic, to your point. Yeah.
And I think oftentimes we forget that a change that we've been working toward for a while, and all of a sudden it makes sense to us and we're going to bring about a change. Often for the people in our life, it's their first time hearing it or first time experiencing
it. Yeah, absolutely.
And you have to give them space and time to adjust and figure out, okay, well, what does that mean? So we're not going to go out tonight?
Yeah, because the other side of that is lots of times people will say they want to change and they never do change. So then people go, okay, here they go again. They're talking about this. And lots of times if you don't say anything about it, that's when change really happens because it's an internal shift of like, I don't want to do that anymore. And you don't talk about it. You don't brag about it. You don't say anything. You just do it. And that's why, legitimately, you've talked about it before, but never did it. And now something's different. You have done it. And you haven't said anything about it. And that's confusing to the whole system. But to your point, that can change dramatically a family system, or it can kick someone out of a family system.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Other people start putting up boundaries that weren't there before because their system's threatened sometimes.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely true. Yeah.
So let me, before I move into that arena a little bit further, something you just said made me think about how often we externalize our discipline by telling somebody in the hopes that they will hold us accountable, or I'm going to tell you to make a commitment. Are you implying that often the externalization of that really it often doesn't indicate a heart change because you've externalized it?
Yep. It's almost like, I'm going to say this, and it's like magical thinking to some degree, or good intentions. And again, the subtlety is maybe somebody will hold me accountable. Well, no one's going to do that. Or if they do, the accountability will be like, oh, you said it. Oh, yeah, you said that before. You never did anything. So, yeah, that's
Yeah.
why I'm saying when it's really a hard change, you don't really say, I'm gonna lose weight." It's like the New Year's resolutions. It's like you say it out loud, and it's like, oh, they last a week or 2. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, if I'm going back to the social drinking example, to tell your friends that join you in social drinking, "Please hold me accountable to this." That's that's maybe
Yeah.
not the best approach to change.
Or if you say it out loud and they're mischievous, they'll try to seduce you back into drinking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To test whether you're
"Oh,
really
oh, really? You're not gonna socially drink? How about this one? You like this drink." Yeah.
everybody orders your favorite drink. Is that what
That's right. We'll get you back on the off the wagon. Yeah.
um, excuse me.
That's a great point. A lot of times you say things out loud, and it's a coping phrase that you really want to do it, so you say it out loud, but you don't do it, and that's why I say when it's a heart change, you don't really have to say anything to anybody because you know you're just gonna do it.
Yeah. But let's talk a little bit about, uh, somebody comes in and they are, uh, wrestling with issues in the relationship that they have with a significant other, married or seriously dating, and they're really working on some internal stuff. That internal stuff often leads to a different way of interacting with other
Mhm,
people.
mhm.
Is there a is there a a way by which to prepare yourself for how your shift in boundaries or approach or attentiveness to your own needs is going to affect that relationship?
Yeah, let's use the responder or the enabler, to
Great.
the that person when they finally unfortunately, they get exhausted. Yes, could they say to their loved ones, I'm gonna be setting some boundaries because 'cause I've understood that it's taking a toll on me, and I'm probably not gonna do some things that you're used to me doing." Yeah, that's really evolved to get to that point, because then because in my mind, if that works, you've already gotten to a point where you're starting to set them and you're noticing the difference, and so then you're willing to say, I'm not gonna be doing those things. That's a tough one because for an enabler to say it even out loud, "I won't be doing that." That's like a commitment that I'm not going to because they probably already have shifted or are exhausted from the process of doing too much. So so that's a way to prepare, and it also, if you've already made the shift, holding yourself accountable.
Yeah.
Because those people in your life, that's gonna really, really make them adjust to certain things. It's
I
like, and let me add to that. It's like the women who've been used to cooking for, 30 years, and they get to a point where I'm not gonna cook anymore. I've had that several times in my office, and it's upsetting everything. And they say, recently, one of my clients said, "Don't ever ask me what's for dinner anymore," because they've always had to carry that load. And I think that's a good example of setting a boundary because I'm not gonna do it.
right before you said that, I was thinking inwardly how surprised I was how often that happens. Like, there are I in my past, I'm not sure I would have ever considered that ever happening
Mhm.
because I grew up
Absolutely.
in a home
Mhm.
where meals were always prepared by my mom, and it was just the given in our family system. And to come across numerous people who came to a point in their life and they said, I'm not doing this anymore.
Mhm.
And it was cooking.
I remember when my mom's did that. She said, "I'm not gonna do holidays anymore," as far as the cooking and things.
Yeah.
And for me, I've always been amazed, even though I know it's a role, definition, but how women have always carried that thing of doing all the cooking. That's shifted quite a bit. I think
Hmm.
the younger ones are more like egalitarian, they share it, but I've always found that amazing. Is like, why do they have to do that? And then why do
Yeah.
I get to say, "Hey, what's for dinner?" "Hey, how about you go to the grocery store and figure it out?" But that's a great real life example. Now I think that comes with age, but I think the younger women are more in touch with that even now, as opposed to being role defined for 30 or 40 years and then getting to a point of saying, "I ain't gonna do that anymore."
Yeah. I have a feeling we may get some comments on this episode of "You really screwed up our family by"
Yeah, that's so true.
But there are
Yeah, we
so
weren't ready to
many
hear that.
there are so many roles that we don't even think about within a family system that have been taken on by somebody, and everybody just assumes that that's the way it's always gonna be.
Mhm, mhm.
And and sometimes one of the things that helps bring about change in a person's life is to simply change a role. Here's
Yes.
something I've always done one way, and I think I need to change this one thing as kind of this statement inwardly that change is happening and it affects multiple people.
Mhm,
Uh, it's almost as if at times I feel like it has been a person's way of kind of announcing their growth by
mhm.
action.
Yes.
Like
Mhm,
there's no statement, but this is my way of saying things are different now, and let's see what happens.
mhm,
And we're back to what you said in a previous episode, and that is life is an experiment. Let's see what
mhm,
happens.
mhm. And interestingly enough, I think still we're in the mindset that for that to take place, I almost have to be exhausted. Whereas you get to a place where you evaluate, "Do I wanna keep doing this?" Which I think is a little bit of the midlife issue. It's like, "Do I wanna keep doing this?" And if I don't make a clear choice, then I may still keep doing it, but then at some point, I get so weary or tired of it that I can't do this anymore, and they do it. That change is initiated by that desperation in some ways.
So, talk just a little bit about the difference of making a decision out of exhaustion and making a decision out of a place of health.
Well, exhaustion actually gives you some energy because you feel like there's no other choice.
Okay. It's like an
Where
ultimatum
Yeah,
inwardly.
absolutely. Whereas if you choose to do it, you're very aware of how it's affecting others, and if you have any empathy in you at all, it's like, "I'm really sorry that this is affecting you this way, but I really think I need to do this." Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kinda like someone who wants to change their career, and they feel trapped because they've built such a life, and yet they are exhausted with their present job, and they know how it's gonna affect so many people if they downsize or whatever.
I do also find it interesting when somebody takes that risk to make a change and they are surprised at how quickly everybody else adapts.
Mm.
And then there's this feeling of, well, why didn't I do this 10 years ago?
It's true because people will adapt if they want a relationship. They just do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And if it's one
And
of
if they
those things that,
don't and if they don't, well, then what was the relationship anyway?
right,
Mhm.
right. And I think that there is this recognition or can be a recognition in those moments that, oh, I just need to communicate better. Like there are times when somebody would say, I wish I'd known. I didn't know that this was a burden. I didn't know that you were weighted under this. And it's back to what you referred to earlier as magical thinking, that if I've never mentioned it, how could anybody know?
Right. Mhm. Yeah, again, that's vulnerability. The risk is if I say what I need, you'll be upset with me, and so I just don't say it. Whereas most of the time, if a person cares about you and is in a relationship and you say, "Hey, this really bothers me," unless it's a trait that's really hard for them to change, most of the time they go, "Well, thanks for telling me. I can do something about that."
Yeah. I think that there is also, I mean, there's a difference between lack of communication, I think, between an initiator versus a stabilizer, a lack of communication between a transformer or responder. I think sometimes the hesitation in communication is that you'll think less of me or you'll think I'm weak if I express my need.
Mhm. Yes, and just the defensiveness.
Yeah.
Remember, the feminine is relationally driven, so they're gonna notice things. The masculine doesn't wanna be noticed. So if there's a strong masculine and I say, when you every time I say this thing, you have a really interesting response where you kinda roll your eyes. "Well, no, I don't." "Well, you do that too." You roll your eyes, and that's the masculine response is usually defensive to try to defend themselves, whereas a feminine is just pointing something out. That's in my mind, that's the basic breakdown. And so, as we've talked about many times, the masculine and feminine is inside of all of us. So, the feminine side of the masculine in the response is defensive, because remember, it's relationally driven. So, their defensiveness is trying to defend the relationship they have with themselves in some ways, as opposed to being able to hear, which a healthy masculine could hear it and say, "Oh, wow, I'm not intending to do that at all." That's why defensiveness is almost always the negative feminine,
Because they're trying to preserve what?
themselves, their
Uh,
self-esteem. I mean, the classic one is, "Well, you do it too." I mean, my 35-year career, I've heard that a few times.
so the
Of course,
defensive,
we all do it.
yeah, but we're talking about you now.
Exactly. You're the only one that's doing it right now. Uh,
So if you have the opportunity, you don't always have the opportunity, but to be working with both partners in a couple relationship and you're talking about change,
mhm.
how do you prep them for the shift that's necessary when one is considering defining their role in a different way? Is it just a matter of keep talking? You've got to say this out loud and you've got to wrestle with how it feels to respond to the change that's taking place?
The change the person the change agent, basically the one who wants something to be different, has to stay committed to it, and then have to stay committed to the conversations and how it's affecting the other. And again, this is where my phrase comes in, "They're better at being them than you are at being you." At some point, if I'm not really committed to the change, the other person who doesn't want the change will defeat me because they're better at being them than I'm being at me. I'm being me. So that's the other challenge. It's like, you used to do that all the time. You don't do it anymore. How has that changed everything? Even in the area of intimacy, that's a big conversation as far as my desire is different and the other person's desire is the same. Like having that conversation can be really challenging.
And even more challenging if those conversations have not been taking place at all prior
Oh,
to
yeah.
this time,
Yep.
which is often the case.
Mhm.
It's another one of those examples where you make a whole lot of assumptions about the way things are, that somehow they are the way things should be.
Mhm.
And when somebody says, "No, this is no longer working for me," it's like a shock moment for somebody.
Mhm.
And once again, if you've been thinking about this for like a year and a half and
Mhm.
haven't said anything, you've got
Mhm.
to give your partner some time to catch up with
Mhm.
your thought processes that have been going on for 18 months.
There's a lot of tentacles to this conversation because one of them is, so the feminine energy that's relationally driven will always say, "I've been giving you hints all along.
Mm.
I've been telling you for years or a year and a half." And the masculine will go, "No, you haven't." And again, my analogy is, "Yeah, I've been telling you to pick up your clothes for a year and a half." "Oh, no, I'm sorry, I've been asking whose clothes are those for a year and a half, and they were your clothes." And the masculine will go, I didn't hear that." So that's why you're right. The feminine has to be more direct
Yeah.
in conversations.
Yeah. And
I mean, think about
that,
the risk of it. Think about the risk of it. This is what I need or this is what I want,
mhm.
'cause that's a big deal. Because if I need this for the relationship to be how I need it to be, that can be a deal breaker. It's like, whoa, who wants to have that conversation?
At some point in time, the person who is feeling that, it needs to come out because
Yeah,
it'll come out in all kinds of passive aggressive ways if it doesn't
yeah,
come out directly.
absolutely true. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Now the truth comes out one way or the other, and functionally or dysfunctionally.
Yeah. Is it
So
also
there's a lot
appropriate?
to this conversation. I hope the listeners aren't getting confused by all the different aspects to it, but
Well, then they're doing better than I am because I am so confused.
well, I think I was sensing my own confusion. That's why I wanted to say it.
A little projection on Dr. Shalley's
Absolutely,
part right there.
absolutely true.
So here's one of the, I think, pieces that's important is that when we talk about paying attention to the inner journey, and this inner journey begins to bring about some change in how I view myself and understand myself, and I'm moving toward health, just to be prepared that that inner change has consequences outwardly in your relationships. Some of those changes you'll welcome and you'll think, wow, maybe I should have done this sooner. And
Mhm,
other things you'll go, oh, is this worth it to push this hard on this particular issue? And both of those responses are healthy and appropriate.
mhm,
And reevaluating change is a good thing to do.
mhm.
It, if you view it, again, this, you said this in a previous episode, if this is in many ways an experiment, you see what the results are of your
Yeah.
experiment
Mhm,
and you go, okay, what's the next best experiment to bring about what feels healthy and whole and right? So just the preparation, the change is a natural consequence and a desired consequence of the inner journey. And change has consequences that you have to evaluate on a regular basis.
Yes, and the less self-aware I am, and I get exhausted, then I'll make an abrupt shift, and it will seem much more traumatic from that perspective as opposed to regularly assessing. That's why I use the term life's an experiment and hold things loosely. To hold it loosely, but if I've done something, if I'm a natural accommodator and I've accommodated and accommodated and accommodated and finally got to midlife where I'm just exhausted, and then I make an abrupt shift because that's usually what happens, then it's like I don't care how it affects everybody else. I had to do this because we've not been honest with ourselves about how it's affecting us all along.
Well said. Really well said. It also takes us back to the difference between making those choices and a crisis forcing those choices.
Mhm.
And often change comes about through a crisis.
And that's why the crisis is in the whole family system then, because all
Yeah.
along I've been doing something that I haven't wanted to do, and I haven't been honest with myself about it because that means vulnerability to myself and then to others when I finally say, at 35 or 36, I don't want to do all the cooking. You have to help out. And then for the husband sometimes to go, and I don't want to do all the providing, so you got to go to work. I mean,
Hmm.
that's the real conversations that I think has had the last 20 years, 30 years.
Yeah. And that conversation could result in, oh, maybe the answer is we're not living as expensively
Yes.
as we have been in the past.
Yeah.
Or we are at a stage in life where I hear you saying that maybe you prefer to downsize. Great. Let's
Mhm.
talk about that.
Yeah.
So those shifts have more than one answer to them.
Yes, absolutely. That's why I say hold it loosely. To brainstorm and to really be cooperative and build your own system with each other because of the because of that very aspect.
Yeah.
It's like we can do this any way we want.
And I think
Which
it's,
challenges family of origin issues, it
oh, yeah.
challenges like poverty mentality, it challenges I mean, there's so many different aspects to that conversation as well. So,
Wow. That's a great point. Because when you start to think about change, you begin to evaluate assumptions you made as a child, assumptions that your family system seems to still hold on to. It,
absolutely.
it changes what holidays look like.
It's so true. Yeah. I mean, it's like if I came from a family that was very poor and I've done really well, and my spouse comes to me and says, "You know what? I think we should really cut back and we should really be more," because they've become abundant in their spending or whatever it is. It's like that's a big shift. It's like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? No, we're doing fine. Well, yeah, we're doing fine, but how about we save and do these things? No, we don't need to save. Whatever that conversation is, that's where extended family issues can affect those conversations and bring up emotions that surprise everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah. So very true. I think it is, I think one of the takeaways for me always on a discussion like this is just to be realistic as we move toward health, that there are ripple effects from that
Yes,
and to be prepared.
that's a great point. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I think it's probably a good point to bring this to a close,
Yeah,
and we'll jump into some other issues in future weeks. Jim,
and I
this
think
is
it would be really open to the listeners' comments about it because it really there's so many different aspects to this that come up that blindside us when changes happen from somebody else and how we internalize it or how we respond to it. So it's a good conversation.
yeah, internalize and personalize. I
Yes.
take it personally that you're making a change,
Yeah, it's
which is
so
not,
true.
which is kind of narcissistic.
This is not what I signed up for. You are different, and I did not it's like the old adage, I would say it in the masculine and feminine terms. The masculine gets to the feminine hoping they won't change. The feminine gets with the masculine hoping they will change.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another way of saying it, yeah.
And for those who have chosen to make a covenant of marriage, it's probably a really good thing that in the vows, we are not able to list all the changes that are going to take place over
I've
them.
often had this fantasy back when I did a few weddings. I would say, "I think we should be specific and, say exactly what the better or for worse is or
Yeah.
could be." Yeah.
What change I'm willing to tolerate and what change I'm not.
And maybe a few people in the, audience would like to, join in and give some insights. Yeah.
What a great ceremony that would be, Jim. Wow.
Don't do it. Oh, do it. It'll be great.
So the conclusion from this episode is do not ask Jim to preside over your wedding ceremony.
Well, unless you want a detailed,
Yeah,
dynamic of what as to what might happen.
that's right.
Mm.
And have a 4-hour ceremony in which you
Yeah,
discuss it all.
absolutely true. Uh,
Thanks, Jim. Great to be with you.
hey,
Talk to
good
you
to be with
soon.
you, D. Yeah.
That's it for this episode of Therapy, Coaching, and Dreams. If you're enjoying the podcast, we'd love for you to follow, rate, or share it with someone who might appreciate it as well. Thanks for being here. And until next time, keep growing, stay curious, and take good care of yourself.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff.